Well, okay, so so we're going to have an eclipse. And I
Yes.
was just reading that that's going to be many years from now for New Jersey, the trajectory. I don't, we're not even getting a full eclipse here in New Jersey. My son's going to get a full eclipse in Indiana, but here in Jersey, what is the significance to all of that? Is there anything energetic? There's all these psychics chiming in, saying this, that, and the other, that this is a big thing, vibratorily for the planet and its people. What's your take on that? Thank you.
Well, all eclipses, astrologically, um, have an effect on the energy because you have the moon and the sun in alignment. That has two sets of the energies, which are affecting the earth at that time. And those areas which are under the shadow have more of it than other areas in the around the world, because these eclipses are quite common. It happens regularly, but it doesn't. Most of the time, it happens over the ocean simply because your planet has more oceans, and it is not necessarily over the land masses. So therefore, you don't know that they are there. So there are always times when people who think they're psychic, and one of the things you have to remember about psychics is that they can only see that which is in alignment with their own thoughts and their own ideas. So that every psychic reading is somewhat distorted by the personality of the psychic. Hopefully, you have a balanced individual who has explored themselves, knows themselves, and are aware of who they are. And they are less likely to influence a psychic reading. Now, you have all these psychics coming forth and saying this, that, and the other thing. They are often projecting their ideas, what they would like to know or what they would like to see upon the situation, as opposed to being really open for an impression, because these changes affect all the people that are in the vicinity of the shadow of the eclipse. And they affect them in their own way, so that I'm trying to come up with an example that works to explain that for the people that are present at this call at this time, it would have one effect upon you, and that would be based on your astrological chart from your natal chart, progressed forward, and what house that this double amount of energy of the earth and the sun, the moon and the sun, that is shining down upon you, even though it is eclipse and it's eclipsing the sun, the energy is still coming forward. And so this intense energy is affecting you according to your natal chart as it has been progressed for that time in the afternoon. And so you do not know what that is going to be. You do not know unless you have a really good astrologer who examines it. You know where you're going to be. They probably won't be able to tell you exactly how it affects you, but it may have an effect upon how you're thinking at that moment. It may make you more optimistic. if you are depressed, you may become more depressed. If you are looking for something, it may bring knowledge and understanding, or it may continue to have everything in the shadow and make no difference at all. So when you are talking about eclipses and natural things that happen, yes, they affect people, but each person is affected individually, not en masse, where everybody has the same reaction and the same thing happening. It is an individual reaction. And yes, if you have people that are similar in nature, similar in thought, and that double energy may be affecting that particular area in a number of people's lives who are already together in an enterprise or a family, or however, they will then have an effect on everybody similarly, simply because these people choose to act congruently with one another. Similar to think of yourself and your husband. You try to agree on what you are about to do. You try to support one another in your relationship. And so the effect of this eclipse upon you is also likely to be very similar to the effect that it has upon your husband, even though you have different birth dates at different times. Just because you are always aware of and thinking about your partner, this is why it will have a similar effect upon the two of you. But that is not enough to have an effect on everybody in exactly the way it affects you and your husband. It will be different for people everywhere. And so it is best to just ignore those people who believe they are psychic and see things, which probably will not come to pass, is what I will say to you. So that is my opinion. Do not listen to these people. Most of them are not, you cannot give a true psychic message about what is happening. What is important in the world at this time? What are you worried about? Are you worried mostly about the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia? Are you worried about what recently happened in Russia and is claiming to be from an Arab country? Are you thinking about the Chinese and what they are thinking about doing? Where is your worry? Maybe the eclipse will have some effect upon these things, but it is highly doubtful that you will be able to see it. Because many times what is important is very subtle and cannot be perceived by people easily. The vibration is simply too subtle, and it's having an effect, but it cannot be seen sometimes until quite a period of time later. So do not get yourself upset about these things. Do not let them upset you, because you will not see any difference. The world will not come to an end, because the shadow at this time happens to fall more in the northeast of the United States than in the middle of the ocean. Are there other questions?
Come on, guys. I can't be the only one with questions.
Does anyone else have a question? It appears not. So you may ask your question.
Well, what is with people? Why is it always like it was the Y2K and then any eclipse or anything astrologically, you get everything from, oh, you're they're going to be an EMP strike. Your phones aren't going to work. Oh, they're going to have the broadcast. And then other people are like, just don't look up. You don't want to hurt your eye. You want to be out and take a look. This is the times, like what you would expect people to say. And then some schools are closing because they're worried about the kids looking up. I mean, this is crazy. I never heard of this before. And then others trying to provide glasses so that people can see. Um, all these things. I mean, literally from the calmest thing that can occur to worst case scenario and then some. Is this just a propensity of humanity that anything like this, people just get on the bandwagon to accentuate or to exaggerate
Thou
anything?
hast
And
said
for
it,
what purpose? I really don't get it. Thank you.
but thou hast said it. In other words, you have said it, and it is just a propensity of human nature, depending upon people's outlook, to either think that is going to make things worse or it's going to do something miraculous and make things better. So, as for advice to look up or not look up at the eclipse, well, you are already aware that looking at the sun can be damaging to your eye if you hold it for any length of time. So, if you are trying to look at this eclipse from before it has happened, and you are not in the shadow, you could damage your sight. That is a well known fact. You should not spend a lot of time looking at the sun. So, that, as I have said, is a well known fact. So, why would you either disagree with it or decide that you're going to stare at the sun? There are other things which can damage your eye too. There are welding. The color of the arc of the welding thing can also damage your eye, and you cannot look at it, or you may damage your sight. You need to wear protective glasses if you do that kind of work to save your eyes. So it is the same. People can foolishly give advice in which they are not an expert, that they have no knowledge or full understanding, but they will speak with authority as if they do. And it is just a common aspect of mankind. And many people like to make doomsday predictions because it's exciting. And what if it comes true? You will be known as a great psychic. And so do not worry about it. It is common sense will tell you that most of that is, as you are well aware, is not true, will not come true, and that these people are just speaking. And many people speak because they want people to pay attention to them.
Interesting. It reminds me of also the Baltimore incident with the bridge, where the container ship plows into the bridge, the support structure. I
Yes.
heard everything from the white hats. It was a white hat operation. No, it was a black hat operation. Oh no, the Ukrainians got a hold of whatever because the captain supposedly was Ukrainian. Meantime, other people are saying, no, the captain was not Ukrainian. I forget which country he's supposed to be from. And it's the same kind of scenario. We're not even talking something astrological. We're talking a ship plowing into a bridge. So, what do you know? What exactly happened with this container ship regarding the bridge? Thank you.
someone simply wasn't paying attention to where they were steering. Or else the steering mechanism malfunctioned slightly, and that was enough to put them slightly off course, and in they went into the bridge. If it was to be an attack of some sort, why would they do it at night when there are very few people likely to be on the bridge? Most of them were construction people, and there were a few trucks, and those individuals were killed. It was not enough to, well, it has made a great inconvenience for the way goods need to travel, the direction, the roads that you take now, going from one place to another in that area. But in that sense, it was, extremely destructive. Was it deliberate? No. It is as simple as that. Simply ignore those things. Do not listen to the news. Are there other questions?
Yeah, right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Roncar.
Yes.
I've heard that the reason for us to be on Earth is to grow our souls. And I wonder what that means. I had the impression that our soul was connected to the divine and, was pretty high up anyway.
Well, yes, you are correct. I do not. People often misunderstand. And they speak about growing your soul for yourself, your personal soul, your being, your body on earth, that your knowledge about yourself can increase and you can grow yourself in this way. And I think they are just thinking of it as an education, that in a sense, if in a lifetime you learn a lot, the older you get, the more you understand. Is that not true? You have seen that already in your life.
Sure.
And they are taking that as growing your soul. It is not, they simply don't know how to express it differently. But they are assuming the growth that you have on the earth plane affects your soul. And you are correct in understanding that you are complete, as are all people, in their own way, in their spirit essence, inasmuch as we are all part of God, and God is part of us. And we are all one. Those who are speaking of growing a soul just don't know how to express it otherwise, because you are perfect. But why are you on earth? So they look at that as being necessary to bring your soul to the perfection that will enable it to transcend incarnation, not have a need to incarnate again. I have often explained that it is only on the earth plane that you can create, that you have the ability to create. While you are in spirit, you are perfect in every way, but you cannot create. That is God's greatest attribute, the ability to create. On the earth plane, you are all creators. If you do it well, you create a better world for yourself and for others. And in that sense, you are growing and you are manifesting the God that you are. Now, if you create in such a way as you cause difficulty and problems for others, such as Hitler did, although that was not the reason he incarnated, he came for the purpose of helping people become better. In his earthly form, however, he came to understand that a person who has great power can help others, can turn people into better people, can aid. And so he realized that he had a charm and a power to influence people. And so he began his career, if you will, turning himself into the mighty Führer, and he directed and helped thousands of people, the German people who had been defeated in the prior war. He gave them dignity again. He brought up their own spirit, but he also caused great harm because he decided, in order to make the Germans be perfect, that he needed to eradicate people who were imperfect. So therefore, the Jews, whom he regarded as imperfect, and the people who had physical problems or had mental problems, that these people all should be eliminated. Now, this was not an action that was his to take. He was not helping. He was murdering thousands of people. As much as he helped, he also murdered. And so he was just a flawed individual. And he may come again and desire this time to help others in a different way. We do not know. And it will be his decision on how he balances out the karma he incurred through his actions, which were both good and bad. So when these people say he's growing as a soul, it is just that they do not know how to express it. They look at the earthly aspect of that which is part of all men, their soul, the earthly manifestation. And they are thinking that, well, this person has improved things, so he is growing as a soul. This other person has not improved things, so he is no longer growing as a soul. But it is just the way they talk. And you need to not be attached to everything you hear. Find what works in your way of thinking, helping you to be the best person that you can be. And in the sense that is growing your soul, it is not literally, because you are correct. Your soul is perfect in every way. You have been created perfect out of the substance of God. So you cannot be other than perfect. And so it is that simple. You are already perfect. Growing the soul is not what is happening, but it is an expression which addresses the thought that people are getting better and better, a better reflection of God that they are, of the God that they already are. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm wondering why it is that we can't remember our past lives.
It is very simple. As you have grown, when you come into the world as children, infant, very young children, you usually remember who you were. You remember heaven. However, as you are inundated with the senses about your new home on earth, your new manifestation, a new body, this overwhelms any memories you have of heaven, of being in spirit, of a past life. Just think of all the things you have learned over your years and how they, as you mature, your understanding and your knowledge eradicates those things that you might have believed when you were much younger. You just no longer think about them. You change. You are now an adult, and you look at things differently. And it is simply that. Your mind, your body, your senses overwhelm your memory. Do you have a further question?
It sounds like the God that the channel talks about believes in oneness and love and heaven, and I'm wondering about hell. Is that just a creation of humankind to confuse people?
I understand your question. In a sense, what you have said is entirely true. What is hell? It is a creation of others. My favorite creation of others is that hell is finding yourself in eternity without being in the presence of God. Finding God is not in your life. And as that is not quite possible, so I have to give you back what you have said. It is just what people have said. It is a way of threatening you into acting with good behavior, if you understand what I mean.
I do.
You don't behave in such a way, you will go to hell. And that is often what is said. And so you must obey these rules because then you can go to heaven. You get one type is a reward, one version is a punishment, and they are trying to scare you or threaten you into changing your behaviors into something that they feel is more desirable. Now, this can be desirable because it will help to move you closer to God and to understand God while you are on earth, to understand your own being as being special because you are part of God. But everyone is as special as you are, of course. But not everyone is acting from their highest and most ethical sense. So therefore, some people are considered to be better than others. And so those who are in charge of religions frequently create whatever they feel is best. for others to hear or believe in order for them to be better.
So God is an all-loving, non-judgmental God. That's what unconditional love is about.
Yes. You know, there are people you have loved who were flawed in whatever way, but you loved them anyway, even
Right.
though they were not perfect.
Even though I didn't like what they were doing or saying.
That's
I
correct.
knew there was an underlying love.
Yes. And for those who have been parents, there is always that love for their children. No matter what their children do, they still love their children. And so you must think of God as your parent. He may feel saddened by your actions, but believe me, God does not feel emotions. But just as an expression to make it as clear as possible, he may be saddened by your actions, but he still loves you the way a parent loves you.
So we don't need to ascribe feelings to God.
Not that I can tell. That there is no need for him to be angry at what we do and want to have justice, have vengeance on people. No, I do not find in spirit that this is a reality.
Well, thank you. You've given me a lot to think about, Roncar.
You're most welcome. It is difficult because the beliefs that people have created have been often brought about by reasons that have nothing to do with what they want you to do. They feel that this is the way you will learn. And there were in the past, sometimes people, they did horrible things to people as they should atone for their sins. They inflicted horrible pain and even death upon people they considered to be sinners. That was not the act of a loving God, certainly, but they decided that for some reason this was desirable. And there is a term which is concupiscence, which is the desire for everything that is good for you at the expense of others. And it is this type of action that there are people who can harm other people as they try to get what they want or they feel they need in life. And it is a sad way of acting, and it's not a loving action.
What is the term?
Concupiscence.
Okay.
And it is being self-satisfying at the expense of others. I think that is probably the best definition that I can give it into my understanding.
Thank you.
Remember, I have to use the vocabulary in the medium's brain.
Right.
And I find that word and that understanding.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you have had an interesting evening. we have perhaps been had the effect when the internet was no longer functioning in this area for a brief few moments, that this was an effect of some solar activity. The sun's may have sent some magnetic stuff down, and it affected our internet. Let's look at it that way. Just as an example of our discussion in this evening. And so it is time for me to say good night. I give you my blessings. Good night.